Yo, howdy everyone. My name's Tito. Welcome to the channel. For all you FBL people, thanks for tuning in. If you're not from the FBL, welcome. But today I wanted to make a video on my team recap for FBL Season 12. Even though this is week 7, I've been wanting to film this video, but I've been really busy with work, school, and track and field at my university. So now that it's summer break and we're officially done with school, I have a lot of time on my hands. So I decided I'd just sit down, give my thoughts on my team, just so I can look back on it, and just so you guys have some content to watch, because who doesn't love content? So anyways, getting right into this team recap. Our first pick, I knew I wanted to be a fast Mon, and since we were the back wheel pick this season, and funnily enough last season in the FBL, my first draft league season ever, a year ago, we were the first pick. So from going to first to last pick, I don't know, pretty cool. Get both sides of the spectrum on how drafting a team feels at those spots. Every other draft I've done from FBL season 11 till now, I've been in the middle spots, except for this one off-season league. Or I guess it was in the FBL, and in the off-season I had basically the last pick. I was second to last, so it was basically a wheel pick. But other than that, I've been in the middle of most drafts, so I've been able to draft things like Meowscarada, Great Tusks, Darkrai, I think Greninja, but that was in a lower tier league, or lower tier Terra league, so I didn't get to use it to its highest capabilities with Terra. But yeah, going into this season, I knew I wanted to try some new things, and after playing draft for about a year, I knew I'm most comfortable with the draft when I have a super fast Mon to prep with. And basically, since I was last pick, I'm not getting Dragapult, I'm not getting Iron Valiant, I'm probably not getting Dio Speed. It almost made it to me though, and so I was pretty comfortable with picking Iron Bundle. Not only is it one of my favorite Paradox Pokemon, just alone by it being a Delibird kind of clone, and it just being a cool guy. I love penguins. But it gives me a fast Mon. It gives me a pretty strong special attacker, not the craziest special attack stat, but a pretty strong Mon nonetheless, especially with things like Freeze Dry, and being able to flip around and give your team momentum with U-turn and flip turn. It gives me just a great pivot Mon that's fast, can hit hard with the choice specs on it. It gives me a fast Encore user, which I have yet to really utilize on my team. I've drafted Encore users in all my drafts, I think, because that's what you should do in Gen 9, but I've yet to really use that. So it's something I want to challenge myself with in prep, is if I can call out or get a slow pivot off on a setup Mon that's going to set up SD and go into bundle based on that, I can Encore them into that and get some momentum and get the game going in my favor, disrupting them. But nonetheless, bundle's great. You can run booster energy some weeks, you can run choice specs on it. Maybe you run a sub leftover set and just be annoying and chip down at your opponent. Other than that, bundle is pretty, you're pretty self-explanatory in prep. You're pretty much going to run something along the lines like this. You're going to run Freeze Dry, Hydro Pump, Ice Beam, and then maybe Encore, a momentum move, maybe Taunt. Maybe you run Air Cutter for a flying type and the damage looks good on them, or maybe you run Icy Wind for some speed control. There's a lot of things that bundle can do, and there's a lot of things that bundle can't do. But I think that the pros of him being a fast Mon and a decent special attacker were great for me, even though bundle 3 years into Gen 9 draft isn't the round 1 pick, especially when it's Terra banned in a league. That didn't really matter to me, because just having something comfortable to work with every week was just huge for me. I don't think there's ever going to be a week, at least up until this point, where I'm not going to bring bundle. I think maybe one time in mocks for 1 week at this point I didn't bring bundle, but then I put it on the team and it made the mocks go way better. But But yeah, so with bundle being my first round pick, and since I had the wheel pick, I knew I wanted to get something strong on the special attacking side and physical side, and one of those guys to have good speed. And then I also wanted one of the Pokemon I first drafted to be a good Terra captain, because last season in the FBL I low-key fumbled the bag, and even though I drafted this next Mon, I wasn't smart enough to ask questions, and I didn't realize it was Terra banned, even though like on like the doc it does say ban. I wasn't smart and I didn't read. So our next pick, we wanted to be a good offensive Terra captain, and I think Urshifu is super good at that. You can run Choice Band, you can run Choice Scarf, you can just Terra into one of your stabs and fighting in dark and just blow holes through your opponent's team. It's just awesome at just like applying a lot of offensive pressure into your team, and it's something that I've lacked in other draft teams where I don't have enough like physical wall breaking power. Like in this draft, I won the Burnt Tower Draft League Season 7 a couple months ago, my first ever Draft League win, which was awesome. But the hardest part every week with building with that team is that my best physical attacker was Hariyama. And even though that was my Terra captain, since it was low tier Terra, it did its work. It did what it needed to do. But like it wasn't like Urshifu, obviously. So Urshifu obviously gets amazing moves like Wicked Blow, gets close combat, just 2 strong stab moves. You know, you get Drain Punch, awesome. You get your setup with Swords Dance, you get your setup with Trailblaze, maybe even Bulk Up some weeks. So it's just super awesome at like blowing holes through teams as a setup sweeper that people have to respect every week, especially because it can Terra. And I like that it can Terra this season because you can Terra out of your 4 times weakness to Fairy. You can make some like cheeky, especially defensive sets with your like pretty decent HP stat. You know, you can max out the Spadef, speed creep something, let's just say like 251, and then put the rest in attack and be like adamant nature. And like I've brought something like this to like help with like switching into Thundurus, even though my team doesn't have a decent ground type. You know, Terra Dragon for switching into Thundurus was like the idea, just so like, and like I didn't think about this when I was drafting, but like, you know, like just at this point in week 6, like, you know, I can run a defensively Terra Urshifu and not just focus on the offense. Maybe throw my opponent off guard, you know, with not having like choice banded Terra Dark, Wicked Blow just blowing through their team. Maybe it's like more of a defensive check that leads to setting up, you know. It's just great at applying a lot of offensive pressure. It does get moves like Taunt, which are great. It gets U-turn for like, which is awesome for choice scarf sets. But other than that, like Urshifu's just doing a lot of damage. It's gonna hopefully try and set up and sweep every week, or maybe just blow holes through the team with the choice band, even choice scarf. Like a lot of the time, like you're gonna be running like choice scarf and you want to try and run adamant. And since 97 is a weird speed tier for Urshifu, like you're not outspeeding a lot of 100 base mons, but you are outspeeding a lot of 95 base speed mons, 80 base speed mons. So you're like able to run adamant over Jolly and like maximize your attack output without like a choice band, you know. So I don't know, Urshifu's great. I've been liking trying to build with the punching glove, just so you can get like, you take no chip from like Rocky Helmet or Rough Skin, and it gives you a little extra boost. So overall, Urshifu's a mon I really like just in general, and wanted to give another shot this season in the FBL since I low-key butchered using him last season. But moving on, enough yapping about my 2 guys. Iron Bundle's like what I see as like my team captain, you know, and Urshifu's just the knight that just like blows through teams. Hopefully, I don't think I've been doing blowing through teams the best with Urshifu. Gosh, I can't speak English, sorry guys. But yeah, Urshifu, he's my guy. I've been loving using him. So next, we wanted to draft 2 mons that could help with fairy types. So I knew I wanted a decent grounded poison type, or a really good grounded poison type that I could bring every week to help check fairy types, and then a good steel type. I couldn't tell you for the life of me what steel type I had last season in the FBL, and I didn't want to mess that up. So I knew I wanted to get a fairy type, or not a fairy type, a poison type, or a steel type, or maybe both. in this next wheel pick. So, and I wanted hazards too. Initially I wanted a Gliscor, but we ended up getting Glimmora. Ended up making it back to us. So Glimmora gives us obviously great hazards in Stealth Rock, great hazards in Spikes, Toxic Spikes, and it gives us hazard removal with Mortal Spin. So the downside to Mortal Spin is that I feel like Steel types are gonna always switch into Glimmora because our 2 stabs are either resisted by them or immune to them, and then it also spin blocks Mortal Spin, which really does suck. So we end up fixing that issue a bit with the next pick, but yeah, it just gives us great coverage, gives us another great special attacker, gives us hazards, which was oh my gosh, I can't speak, guys, I'm so sorry. It gave us hazards, which was what we were looking for from our 3rd round pick, and it does that perfectly, especially with Toxic Debris, being able to set up T-Spikes. Gives us a Corrosion, which I really think is a cool ability, just being able to toxic poison types and steel types, like for those bulky annoying like steel types or even annoying poison types like Muck, you know, you can just toxic them and whittle them down that way, with which helps for Bundle and Urshifu cleaning them up in the end game. But with that, I knew I wanted a steel type, getting Glimmora this third round pick, and since we had the wheel pick, no one could snipe us on Scizor. Scizor isn't the traditional steel type, traditional bulky steel type, I should say, that I'm like most comfortable with like using, but it does give me a really good steel type at scaring fairies away with Technician Bullet Punch. You know, slap a Choice Band on it, maybe slap a Life Orb with Swords Dance on it. It's gonna blow holes through teams, you know? It also gives us a Defog user, which isn't like the best when you have like a spiker like Glimmora, but on the off chance where I'm not like hazard stacking my opponent and I know they can hazard stack me a bit better, Defog is great when, you know, Glimmora doesn't want to run Mortal Spin on its build that week, or like Glimmora doesn't even make it on the build that week. So I like Scizor just for the offensive pressure that it puts. It gives us another hazard remover, and it gives us another slow momentum user. I think slow momentum is a great thing to have on every team. And, you know, Scizor has decent speed, not a decent speed stat. It has a pretty poor speed stat, and maybe some weeks you are running some speed to outspeed like those base 50 max speed mons that want to maximize their speed. Like let's say Deontay, like they're gonna be like modest max speed on like a rock polish set. So before they rock polish, you know, you want to be at like 200 speed, and then max your attack out, you know. So I really like Scizor just for its offensive pressure, like I was saying, and you know, Technician is a great ability to have with things like Bug Bite, Bullet Punch, maybe even Aerial Ace some weeks. Gives us a knockoff user, which is great for getting boots off for Glimmora's hazards, and it's overall just a pretty good mon. Like I've used Scizor like in a Gen 7 like a tour on Smogon, like I think last summer too, and I really like the Pokemon. It's fun to prep with, especially when like SD, Bullet Punch, Life Orb sets just go kind of crazy on a team. So there's not much else to say about Scizor. So moving on, after another 31 picks, if I'm doing the math correctly, I knew I needed a ground type. I did not want to fumble the bag and not get a ground type. And I low-key thought I did fumble the bag in not getting a ground type in round 3 or 4. So I was really hoping no one took this next mon, because I was pretty content but not super stoked about having to hit Hippowdon, since that looked like the next best ground type on the draft board. But Crocodile ended up making it back to us, which is super good for our team. It gives us a good defensive typing in ground dark. Gives us a couple immunities, is great at just running Choice Scarf, Choice Band some weeks, maybe Rocky Helmet, maybe a Citrus Berry for some recovery, maybe leftovers for a bulkier set and some passive recovery. Gives us 2 really good abilities in Intimidate and Moxie. I don't think I'd ever bring Anger Point. Intimidate's just great to like throw out, force your opponent's physical attacker out, especially if their stabs are in favor of ground dark. the ground dark typing. Gives us another stealth rocker, so Glimmera's not forced to run stealth rocks. Gives us another knockoff user. Earthquake is just great stab on it. It gets moves like Dragon Tail. Maybe you run a Focus Sash Endeavor set some weeks. Doesn't have like the most amazing coverage. Like it does get Gunk Shot for fairy types, which is pretty chill. But other than that, you know, Crocodile's just an overall great mon. It's lacking in speed, which my team, as you can see from this point, is lacking speed, as Iron Bundle's our fastest mon and Urshifu's our second fastest mon. So Crocodile was a hard pick to like close in on when like I wanted to fix that speed gap on my team, but it was a typing I needed more than worrying about like the awkward speed tiers my team has. So with that, since no one was gonna be able to snipe us this next pick, I got the only mon I knew I wanted the whole, like, even before like we knew the draft order. It was the one mon I knew I wanted to try and fit on my team. Like I would 100% get it if it came to me at a feasible round to grab it at. And I don't know how Terra Sinistra made it to round 6, but it did. And I'm so happy I got it. It's such a great defensive Terramon. It's been my savior in some weeks. Even though one week I did take an L when I did Terra it, it stopped Hitmontop from sweeping me. So rather maybe they forced me to Terra it when they switched out, but that's neither here nor there since we're talking about my team at the moment. But yeah, Sinistra's just a great defensive Terra captain. It can just run things like Strength Sap, get all its HP back on a great physical attacker. It gets things like Macha Gotcha. The only drawback is that it can miss, and it will miss, as we'll see when I go over some of the other weeks matchups. But gets good stab like Shadow Ball. You know, maybe some weeks you run Terra Blast if you're running like a Fairy Terra and you want to hit a Dragon type super effectively. But usually, you know, you're running something like this: Strength Sap, Macha Gotcha, Shadow Ball, Calm Mind. It's a great physical wall that my team kind of lacked. Going this far, like Scizor is a little bulky with 100 base defense, HP's, whatever. Urshifu can take some physical hits here and there, especially with like a defensive Terra or even just with its natural typing. And Sinistra just gave us like a staple physical mon every week. So was pretty happy with Sinistra being on the team, especially since it was like the only mon I knew I wanted. And ability-wise, you're always running Key Proof on Sinistra. Like, this isn't doubles. We're not running Hospitality, let's be so real. But yeah, Sinistra is just a great mon to have on the team. The big thing that I wanted with Sinistra too was that it could spin block before I Terra. And, some weeks we don't want to Terra because we want to spin block pesky rapid spinners that are going to be getting rid of Glimmera's hazards or Crocodile's rocks. And that chip is important to us winning the endgame, So Sinistra just gives us a good spin blocker. And without further ado, we make it to round 7 after another 31 picks or so. And this time I knew no matter what, we need to get something with a good speed stat. So without hopefully spoiling my team, but who cares if I do, I already did. But in round 6, this was the end of round 6, Ogre Pump Cornerstone. I knew I needed a lot of speed. And at this point, we had 18 points left. So if we look at the draft board, I knew Thunderous could be a good mon to get because it was still on the board. Walking Wake would be whatever. Other than that, I don't think Ogerpon was left on the board yet. Was it? Was it? It was left on the board, and I low-key didn't get it. Ogerpon, I didn't get it because I had Sinistra and I don't want to have double my grass types. And my team was having a pretty bad flying weakness at this point. So that's why I was kind of looking at Thunderous. It gave us a flying resist, maybe not the best defensive mon for checking flying types. But sometimes you just need to sponge a hit and then, get out of there with Volt Switch or U-turn. So I was really looking at Thunderous. Gave me some more status on the team with Prankster, Thunderwave. I think all the fast mons here were gone. There's nothing really fast here other than maybe Mienshao, but the biggest thing with my teams in the past is that I have decent speed tiers. Maybe I have like the plus 120 speed, and then I have a 108 speed. And to me, that speed tier is good, but you do want a mon from like 110 to 115 that complements the 120 mon pretty well. So the 120 mon doesn't have to feel like they need to run Scarf some weeks. So I really wanted a 110 to 115 speed tiers so they could be a reliable Scarfer some weeks, and so Urshifu's not forced to be Scarfered. So as you can see here, Azelf was drafted, and we ended up drafting Azelf. And Azelf is a great mon that, even though I've been thinking about trading him some weeks, I'm glad I didn't, because he really shows up week 6. And Azelf's just another great lead for the team. Like Lamora, it could just be Focus Sash lead with Stealth Rock, Knockoff, Thunder Wave, and then Explosion. Boom, load that up, be a lead, be annoying, and just get a lot of damage off with Explosion if they don't have a good Ghost type or didn't bring their Ghost type. Thunder Wave something and pretty much shut it down, especially if they're like a setup sweeper. And yeah, it gets great coverage with Flamethrower, Dazzling Gleam, Energy Ball. You get Ice Punch, you know, Azelf should get Ice Beam, but whatever. You get Thunderbolt, you get U-Turn, which is great on Choice Scarf sets. You get Trick for getting rid of an item. Like maybe I'd bring a Flame Orb or Toxic Orb, turn 1 Trick kind of thing if they don't have like a good Steel type that won't come that week, you know? And people aren't really, you know, forced to bring a Steel type against my team unless it's like a Steel Flying type for like Crocodile or Scizor. But if they have like a decent enough bulky water type to deal with Scizor, you know, they don't really need a Steel type here. I mean, actually, I'm a liar. They do want to bring a Steel type against me because I have Iron Bundle. But nonetheless, like, Azelf could do a lead, you know, Toxic Orb kind of thing. Or a lead Flame Orb Trick kind of thing. But other than that, like Cheeky said that I could bring, you know, Azelf gets things like Encore, gets things like Taunt. It's a great support mon as well as a great offensive mon and fast mon, which my team definitely lacked. I wish they give Azelf Healing Wish like they did Mesprit, but I get that they want some disparity between the Lake Trio Guardians. But this is my favorite Lake Trio Guardian out of the 3. And fun fact, it's one of the first Pokemon I ever shiny hunted for and got the shiny back in Oras. So yeah, this guy is always going to be shiny every week I bring him. I hope week 6 I brought him shiny, but because I'd be a liar if I didn't. But yeah, so after Azelf, I knew I needed a bulky water, which is something I normally prioritize earlier on in draft. But since given the team I was already drafting and given the board, like Slowking was like left, Milotic was left, I knew I could wait for those mons to get picked, especially based on what everyone else was drafting. So I could have picked Slowking over Azelf and then maybe got Whimsicott as a faster mon, but I didn't like, you know, another flying weakness on the team. But even though I didn't like the other flying weakness on the team, or the flying weakness that was prevalent on the team, we went Arachnoid. So Arachnoid is cool. I low-key wish sometime it could be my secondary Terra Captain, but I feel like Sinistcha is just too good not to Terra. But Arachnoid gives us a pretty good Assault Vest mon some weeks if we want to run some more offense, because Water Bubble boosts our, you know, water type attacks. So maybe some weeks we run Assault Vest with a more offensive set to hit whatever we're checking with the AV a bit harder than normal. But the great thing about Arachnoid is we get Sticky Web, we get things like Endure Endeavor, which are awesome on Custap Berry sets. We get, obviously, of course, our normal stabs with Surf and Liquidation. It's been kind of fun to try and run, whatchamacallit, like, you know, utilize these, like, quirky bug-type moves, like Lunge, Pounce is pretty cool, right? Oh, I can't type, guys. Pounce, you know, being able to lower the speed of your opponent. Gets Reflect, you know, maybe you bring that to help beat the physical attacking mon that's coming in on you, and then helps your next Pokemon come in after you get KO'd inevitably, because Arachnoid doesn't have the most, or doesn't have the best time, rather, getting recovery off, since Leech Life isn't like the best thing ever. especially with only 70 base attack, and Giga Train isn't that great with 50 base attack. So you know, you're doing your thing, and you know, Arachnoid does its thing with just setting up sticky web and being able to just maybe apply a lot of pressure with a choice spec set or a choice banded set or an AV mirror code set. You know, it does its thing. It's my primary, especially defensive mon, which as you can see on my defensive mons like Sinistcha, Scizor, maybe even Glimmora some weeks, and maybe Crocodile some weeks, they don't have the best special defense. So Arachnoid's been a staple mon for that. Even though like most weeks I have brought like AV Scizor or like full Spadef Crocodile to help with some special attackers like Goldengo and such. But yeah, Arachnoid gave me a bulky water, which my team really desperately needed, and a sticky webber, which is cool to pair with Urshifu. So these last two mons really they mattered because I needed to get something pretty good at taking flying type hits. So I wanted an electric type. There was not really any good steel types on the cheaper mons. So I was pretty torn between Electros or Belly Bolt, and I ended up going Electros. And even though my team doesn't have the biggest ground type weakness, I kind of like the idea of Electros having no weaknesses. And it's a mon I've never tried, and I really like Gen 5, so Electros is always just a cool mon in my eyes because I have Gen 5 bias. But yeah, with Electros, it gives me another good Assault Vest Pokemon. It gives me a lot of great coverage. Gives me a slow U-turner or Volt Switch. I like that it has U-turn and Volt Switch, especially when ground types are just like kind of free switching sometimes on Electros. Even though I could bring Liquidation or Giga Drain, so they got to be worried about that. But nonetheless, it does give me a good pivot mon on anything, really. And it gives me a good pivot mon on ground types with U-turn, which was kind of what I was getting at. But yeah, it's not the most defensive mon like Belly Bolt is, but it does give me another like decent, decent attacker and special attacker. Like, I don't think I'm ever gonna really bring like a max attack set. Probably I was gonna max out the HP and try and give as much bulk that I need to with an AV or maybe a Rocky Helmet some weeks, and maximize just sponging hits, and then maybe I put some into attack or special attack given the week. But it's never gonna be the mon I'm like expecting to do a lot of damage. But it is the mon I'm always expecting to take some hits, maybe Thunder Wave something, and maybe knock off, because this guy gets knockoff, which is such an awesome move to have in draft. But yeah, before we get done with this video, we have one more mon, and that's Wigglytuff. We only had 1 point left, and I knew I needed a Spectrier check and a Fairy type, so Wigglytuff was just the budget mon that we got for 1 point. I think it was 1 point, right? Yep, 1 point. So yeah, Wigglytuff, you know, on the weeks I bring it, maybe I bring Stealth Rocks, maybe I bring Light Screen and Reflect with Knockoff, and or maybe do I get Misty Explosion? I do, so maybe I bring Screens and Misty Explosion, get on out of there, sets up maybe Azelf to sweep 1 week, or Glimmora to Rock Polish sweep, or Shifu, you know, our primary sweeper. So Wigglytuff, I don't see it coming, maybe really ever, but it does its thing defensively. Since we have a lot of HP, we can just max out defense and special defense, take a couple hits, run Light Clay. I do like, though, that it has the ability Frisk, so maybe we do bring it to just sponge some hits and set up screens, set up rocks, knock off things, maybe Thunder Wave some things, you know. But yeah, it's nice that it has Frisk, so we can scope out our opponent's item. But yeah, other than that, this is the squad we ended up drafting. I'm pretty happy with what we drafted, and you know, at the time of this draft, I was very happy with what I drafted and excited to see what comes of the season. And as you can see here, we're doing pretty good so far, but we have our work cut out for us the next 2 weeks. So hopefully we can make it to playoffs this season in the FBL, and hopefully promote, because that's the goal, is winning and promoting. But yeah, guys, thanks for watching. Comment Pingu down below if you made it to the end of this video. Bye!